Eternals post-credits scene explained and meaning for the MCU. Marvel's new movie Eternals is by far the only Marvel production ever to end up getting labeled as rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and whether it deserves this or not is gonna be highly debated for a long time. The reason for this dilemma would most likely be the fact that the movie had too many overarching storylines and plot points that were left unexplored, but the most head-turning moments of the movie were perhaps in its ending and post-credit scenes. In today's video, we will discuss the meaning behind Eternals' ending, but don't forget to watch the whole video because in the end, I will tell you one thing that I promise will shock you. So there's a lot to digest with the Eternals' conclusion and post-credit sequence. The film is chock full of Easter eggs and brand new characters, and it also fills in a lot of the gaps in the MCU's timeline. Before we get into the credit scene, let's talk a bit more about the movie's main plot points because I think it will help us understand the post-credit scenes better. The movie is unsurprisingly very rich and diverse with its exposition. The movie opens with a block of text that tells the story of the Celestials and how they created the cosmos, much like a lot of sci-fi movies that have to fill you in on vast pieces of mythology. It describes Eros's creation of the first sun, which gave birth to life in the universe. It was balanced at first, but then the deviants appeared. They were created to guard worlds against predators, but they turned on their masters in an attempt to feed on all life. As a result, Eros dispatched the Olympian Eternals to assassinate them. However, as we will see later in the film, this is not the case. We see golden spheres bringing them to life early on, and these become highly crucial for the film's plot and one of the post-credit scenes later on. Sersi, Icarus, Kingo, Sprite, Phastos, Makari, Druig, Gilgamesh, Ajax, and Athena are the members of the Eternals who arrived on Earth about 5000 BC. They easily defeated the Deviants and remained on Earth and chose to stay and blend into the human culture. They stayed together until 1521 when Athena's memories were too much for her, fracturing her mind and sending her into attack mode. As a result, the team split and went their separate ways in life. This refresher will be important to understand the conclusion of the movie. Speaking of which, the ending sequence includes all of the Eternals completely turning the Celestial into stone, Icarus crying as he soars directly into the sun, and Sersi utilizing the last of her power from connecting to the Celestial to transform Sprite into a human. Druig, Athena, and Makari embark on a search for additional Eternals. Eros takes away Sersi and several other characters out into space with him since they all participated in one way or the other in killing Tiamut. Harry Styles as Star Fox teleporting on board the Eternal ship with his friend Pip the Troll, who presents him as Thanos' brother. Star Fox is there to assist them in their search for additional Eternals. Dane is standing in front of an old box, pondering whether or not to open it, and then touch the sword inside until a distant voice begins speaking to him. After the final post-credit scene, it says, "The Eternals will return." All of this allows Marvel to push Eternals towards a massive ending. Now, even for the most invested of fans, this can be way too much to take in. So let's go over it in detail and decipher what it actually means based on the movie continuity and a bit of comics lore. Firstly, the question that comes to mind is Icarus really dead? The cliffhanger finale of Eternals features what appears to be Icarus' death. But is Richard Madden's character truly dead? Icarus flies into space headed straight for the sun after realizing he can't go through with killing Sersi to prevent Tiamut's emergence. The ending of Eternals moves away from him before his flaming demise is explicitly seen, leaving his MCU fate uncertain. For what it's worth, it appears that the Eternals believe Icarus is dead, as Kingo expresses regret over what happened to him. However, it isn't clear how they would be aware of this. The other Eternals weren't able to sense Ajax's death, therefore they shouldn't be able to do so for Icarus. The one caveat is that Sersi is now the Prime Eternal, so she may have a deeper connection to the other Eternals and be aware that Icarus died. Icarus flying into the sun is Marvel's take on Icarus' story from Greek mythology. The connection to this story makes sense, But Marvel and Zhao purposefully chose to keep Icarus' fate unresolved. As the franchise progresses, they will have more leeway with Richard Madden's MCU character. He could be dead and never be seen again, or Icarus could have survived in some way. Perhaps the Eternals are strong enough to withstand the heat of the sun, or Arishem intervened and took Icarus before he died. For now though, his fate is clearly uncertain. Another question that we all were wondering about when walking out of the theater was the location Arishem takes the Eternals and why. When Arishem returns at the end of Eternals, he announces that he is taking Sersi, Phastos, and Kingo with him. He's probably taking them to the World Forge, Arishem's cosmic region where the Eternals and New Worlds are created. Arishem also keeps all of the Eternals' memories from prior operations at World Forge. He decides to investigate Sersi, Phastos, and Kingo's memories with them. Arishem is enraged that they disobeyed his orders and halted Tiamut's emergence, and he wants to know why and if it was the right option. He announced that he would come back later on to judge if humanity has been more fruitful than any other species Tiamut would have created. The divide in the Eternals is also very clear by the end of the movie. Following the Eternals' decision to defy Arishem's plan and preserve humanity, the gang is split by the end of Eternals. In the last moments of the film, Makari, Druig, and Thena leave Earth on the Domo starship in search of additional Eternals. They are decided to search the galaxy for more of their kind and to inform them about the purpose of the Celestials and the Eternals when they go to New Worlds. It takes them a few weeks, as demonstrated in the post-credit sequence in Eternals, to meet someone significant. Everyone else, including the remainder of the Eternals, is either still alive or has died. Sersi returns to London, Kingo agrees to help raise Sprite, and Phastos and his family relocate to Ajax property. However, when the Celestial makes a surprise visit to Earth, Sersi, Kingo, and Phastos are abducted by Arishem. Sprite is not taken because she isn't an Eternal, which means she will be raised by Kingo's people. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh and Ajax are still dead after the conclusion of Eternals, and Icarus maybe as well. By the end of the movie, we're also teased to a possible Black Knight continuation. Dane Whitman has a bright future in the shared universe as seen in the final scene. Dane acquires the Ebony Blade after watching Sersi unexpectedly leave an Eternals post-credit scene, despite having had a minor role in the film. Dane had previously taunted Sersi about his family's convoluted past and was going to tell her all about it when she vanished. Dane appears to be preparing to use the power of the Ebony Blade to try to discover a method to save Sersi. What he didn't expect was to hear Blade's voice asking him whether he's ready to pick up the powerful sword and become Black Knight, along with the responsibility and the burden it comes with. The sword itself bears the message, "Death is his reward," which alludes to the Blade's bloody history. It cuts almost anything but corrupts the user over time, a fate that has befallen many versions of Black Knight over the centuries, though whether that is what awaits Harrington is still in the shadows. In Marvel Comics, the Celestials are most known for assessing the potential worth of ethical metal of an entire planet of mortals. In some ways, Eternals' conclusion is quite comparable to how most Marvel Comics protagonists first encounter Celestials as colossal cosmic judges. One of the Eternals' post-credit scenes suggests that the next time we see the Eternals, they'll be worried about whatever Arishem has planned, as Druig, Thena, and Makari encounter a couple of peculiar companions who claim to be able to assist them to find their missing friends. That may be a sequel to Eternals, or it could be something else entirely. What, after all, is a greater menace than Thanos? The banished Eternal. There are, of course, the near-omnipotent Celestials who created the Eternals in the first place. Certainly, Marvel writers have found ways to integrate the superheroic realm with more cosmic themes over the years. Now is unfortunately the time to end this video, but before we do that, I just need to ask you, what do you think of the movie? Comment if you think it was good or bad and why. Thanks for watching all the way till the end, and I'll see you next time. Until then, hasta la vista.